let's talk a little trade, right? Trade deadline coming up a little over a month away. I got 5 names. I'm going to tell you who they are, who they play for, what position they play, and also what their contract looks like. Tell me if you think they're going to get traded, and without naming your favorite team, tell me one team you think could benefit the most from them. All right? You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Let's start off with Diamondbacks third baseman Eugenio Suarez, who's in a contract year. Does he get moved, and where does he go?
This one's a tough one just because everyone could use a power bat, right? And I don't know. I just feel like the Diamondbacks are not going to sell off at this point. I'm just going to go with that. I don't think that, Suarez gets moved because I think the Diamondbacks still feel like they have a shot and like they can hit their way into the postseason. But, if anyone is knocking on the door there, I could see maybe a Toronto looking to add an additional bat here.
John, do you think he gets moved?
Honestly, with the Diamondbacks being like 2.5 games out of the wild card, I know it's kind of early, like you said, but I mean, being that close, and just for how good he has been, I it's like 50-50. But I feel like they think they can make the playoffs, and there's a really good chance they could. So there's a good chance they just roll with what they have. But it being like a contract year, I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm gonna say they just hold on with and roll with it because I think they probably think that they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough. They're all right there. I think he does get traded. And if I'm not picking the Yankees, I'm going to pick a team. I think Ben had the right idea with like Toronto, a team like that could use a power bat. Trying to think of another option, maybe somebody, I don't know, like the Mets if they kind of want to move off Beatty. I think that'd be a pretty solid fit to really lengthen their lineup. But the second name I want to bring up is Angels outfielder Taylor Ward, who's got the rest of this year and all of next year left on his deal.
Yeah,
What do we think?
look, I think that, with Taylor Ward, this is a name that, the Angels are just going to try to get whatever they can for him. You know, I just don't know how big the market is going to be. I don't know if the Angels are going to get the return they'd expect. I'm really curious to see what the outfield market comes to be at this point. But like I said, everybody wants to add a bat. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually is Crosstown and the Dodgers are the team that's knocking on the door and pays the best price for the Angels outfielder.
Honestly, I'm thinking maybe similar, like close, like not too far from Dodgers. They're the Giants kind of going. I think maybe they just make another big push and just go all in.
I'm thinking in division, I do think he gets moved. I think Seattle is an interesting option. They can use all the help they can get. And maybe a change of scenery brings back a little bit of that magic that Ward has had in the past. The next name is Cardinals starting pitcher Eric Fetty. He's in a contract year.
Yeah, Fetty is a interesting name. He's someone who the Mets saw plenty with Washington. And not the most consistent arm. I think the Cardinals end up hanging on to him just because you're not going to get a pretty good price tag for him. I don't think, or at least in my opinion, the Cardinals don't strike me as, a team that's completely ready to throw it in and get rid of all their assets. But, you know, I I'm just not sure who is going to be barking up that tree that's outside the division, because I don't see the Cardinals making a deal with the Cubs, and I think that's the team that would want Fetty the most.
I think he does get moved, and I think he gets moved to Boston.
Boston buying.
I think Boston will buy. I think that they're going to be one of the most confusing teams of the deadline. And I think Boston, who knows they need more starting pitching depth, I think they'll take on Fetty, and it won't cost them really anything at all. The next name I want to bring up is Kansas City starting pitcher Seth Lugo. Now, he's got a player option after this year for 2026 at $15 million that he's most likely going to decline. Do they move him, or do they keep him?
He gets moved. I think that Kansas City is a team that realizes the Tigers are running away with this division, and they're not really there to compete just yet. I think maybe they try to re-sign him in the offseason, but Kansas City's going to move Seth Lugo, and Toronto. I think that would love to get a guy like Seth Lugo, especially with the potential for him to at least maybe be there for next year as well. You know that we talked about it 2 weeks ago. The best way for Toronto to get guys there long term is to trade for them and try to convince them to sign.
Yeah, to me, he's got Dodger written all over him. They need the pitching, and they've never been shy of having too much.
I was going to say, it's just at what point? Like, how do they turn through so many pitchers?
Because they don't care about their players or their health.
They're just like, we can just trade for another one. That's their mentality.
What do you think, John? Do they keep him or do they move him?
Honestly, they probably just trade him away, because I feel like you can get a pretty decent haul from trading him compared to some other pitchers, because he's a pretty decent pitcher. So it's like, I mean, now to who? I mean, you can say a ton of names. I mean, like, who's not looking for another pitcher?
Everybody's looking for pitching.
Everyone would love to have another arm.
Quality arms are hard to come by.
So it's like, I mean, you got you can look like Cubs, Mets, Red Sox, like
Phillies.
Phillies. Even though I'm not allowed to say it, but Ben said it first.
I was able. I threw him out there for you.
I didn't say it. Ben said it. But I mean, you have almost everything. It's just a matter of like which team can give the Royals the best offer.
So my last name I want to bring up, Minnesota right-hand relief pitcher Yohan Duran. He's got 2.5 years left. Minnesota isn't playing well. They're in fourth place in their division. They would be selling at the height of his value because we know how fickle relief pitchers are. We saw Class A last year to this year and how he's played a lot worse. You can lose it right away, so you might as well sell if you're not, needing him to compete. Do we think they move him at the deadline or even in the offseason? I'm going to extend it to.
I think they move him at the deadline. I think the Twins just have to accept their fate at this point and get as much as they can for him. Now, everyone will be calling on this one. I think that the Phillies are the team that will give up an arm and a leg for him if they have to, because I think the Phillies do realize that, yes, even though their farm system isn't putrid, their window is now. They don't have too much terrific help coming up through the pipeline. They have some guys, it's not world beaters. It's not like, hey, we have 6 guys like the Orioles did. So their window is now. The time is now. I think, you do what you can. And Dombrowski has not been shy about going to get relief arms because he knows the bullpen is the one thing he has never been able to figure out.
Yeah, I think obviously the Phillies are the top team. It's really any team that needs bullpen. I think the Mets might really look to check in on him.
The Mets would
Imagine
love
pairing
a
him,
bridge with how Garrett
right?
struggled. They would love a bridge to Diaz.
And it could take pressure off of Diaz too. You don't need him to close every game. You can put him in, the eighth. You can really have a closer by committee with the two of them. Now I know Diaz is your closer, but he has had his bouts of struggle every now and again. So just to have two elite arms, it would be really good for them. Obviously, a team like the Padres, the Giants,
You can get
they're
him
the
for
ones.
free if you eat Correa's contract.
See, forward thinking like that.